Welcome to Storytales. Please like this video and subscribe to Storytales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Logan Matthews stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, his calloused hands gripping the edge of the marble countertop. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, testament to another late night at the office trying to meet Savannah's endless financial demands. His once bright blue eyes had dulled over the years, matching the growing weariness in his soul. At 35, he looked a decade older, worn down by the constant pressure of trying to meet impossible expectations. The master bathroom, like everything else in their house, bore Savannah's expensive taste. Italian marble, gold-plated fixtures, and designer towels that were more for show than use. The renovation alone had cost more than his first car. He remembered the 3-hour argument when he'd suggested using the money for investment instead. "What would people think?" she demanded. "We need to maintain appearances." "Logan." Savannah's sharp tone cut through his thoughts, echoing off the bathroom's high ceilings. "Did you even hear what I said? The landscaper needs to be paid today, and I told you last week I wanted to upgrade our pool furniture. The Wilsons just redid their entire backyard, and I refuse to host the garden club next month with our outdated setup." He splashed cold water on his face, buying himself a moment before having to face another morning of criticism. 7 years of marriage had taught him that no matter what he did, it would never be enough for her. The weight of constant disapproval pressed down on his shoulders like a physical burden. Walking into their kitchen, he found Savannah perched on a bar stool, scrolling through her phone with perfectly manicured nails. She didn't look up as he entered, too absorbed in whatever caught her attention on social media. Her designer outfit probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, another essential purchase she justified as necessary for maintaining their social status. "I heard you," Logan said, keeping his voice level as he reached for the coffee maker. "But we just bought new pool furniture last summer. The set is barely a year old." Savannah's head snapped up, her styled blonde hair swishing with the movement. "That was ages ago, and Jessica just got this gorgeous new set from Italy. I can't have people thinking we can't afford the same quality. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my friends come over and see last season's furniture? The Thompsons just renovated their entire pool house, and here we are with basic lounge chairs." Logan fought back a sigh as he started the coffee maker, the familiar aroma providing a momentary comfort. "We need to be more mindful of our spending, Savannah. The market's been volatile, and the merger, oh please." She cut him off with a dismissive wave of her French manicured hand. "You always say that, but somehow Jessica's husband manages just fine. Maybe if you work harder or got that promotion you keep talking about. I mean, Mark's already made partner at his firm, and he's younger than you. Did you know they just bought a second vacation home in Aspen?" The familiar sting of her words hit him, but Logan kept his expression neutral as he poured his coffee. He'd learned early in their marriage that showing how much her barbs hurt only gave her more ammunition. Every achievement of his was minimized, every effort dismissed as inadequate. "I have that meeting with the board next week," he said, though he knew it wouldn't satisfy her. "Nothing ever did. The Morrison merger could change everything for us." Savannah rolled her eyes, sliding off the bar stool with practiced grace. "Well, try not to mess it up this time. I've got lunch with the girls today, and I need to order some new outfits. The credit card better not decline again. Last time was mortifying. I had to pretend I'd forgotten my wallet at home." Logan watched as she sashayed out of the kitchen, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors. Each click felt like another nail in the coffin of their marriage, but he pushed the thought away. He had responsibilities, commitments. Even if Savannah seemed to view him as nothing more than an ATM with legs, AT work, Logan buried himself in preparation for the upcoming board meeting. His office on the 32nd floor offered a panoramic view of the city, but he barely noticed it anymore. The space had become his sanctuary, a place where his efforts were actually appreciated. The Morrison merger consumed most of his attention, a $500 million deal that could reshape the entire company. If successful, it would mean a significant promotion and the kind of bonus that might finally satisfy Savannah's endless appetite for luxury. At least temporarily. "Looking a bit rough there, boss," his assistant Rachel commented as she dropped off another stack of reports. Her kind eyes held genuine concern. "Everything okay?" Logan managed a tired smile. Just another late night ahead. Can you reschedule my morning appointments tomorrow? I need to review these numbers before the board meeting. Rachel frowned, setting down a fresh cup of coffee on his desk. That's the third time this week you've worked past 8. Does Savannah know? It's fine, Logan cut her off gently. Just doing what needs to be done. Rachel had been his assistant for 5 years, long enough to witness the gradual erosion of his spirit. She'd seen the progression, how his once confident stride had become weary, how his easy smile had grown forced. But she also knew better than to push the subject too hard. I'll reschedule the appointments, she said, pausing at the door. But Logan, you deserve better than this. Her words echoed in his mind long after she'd left. Did he deserve better? Savannah had convinced him otherwise for so long that sometimes he wondered. The constant criticism, the subtle put-downs, the way she compared him unfavorably to her friends' husbands, it had all become his normal. The afternoon brought a series of crucial meetings about the Morrison merger. In the main conference room, Logan led his team through the latest projections. The numbers for Q3 look solid, David Chun, the lead analyst, reported. The Morrison Group is practically gift-wrapping this merger for us. Logan nodded, studying the projections on his tablet. Their CEO is retiring. No clear successor in sight. Perfect time for a strategic acquisition. You've done incredible work on this, Logan, Sarah Martinez, the senior VP, added. The board's impressed. I wouldn't be surprised if this lands you that director position. Any other time, such praise would have lifted his spirits. But Logan could already hear Savannah's voice. Director? Why not VP? Sarah's younger than you, and she's already. The afternoon dragged on with more meetings, each one a reminder of what he'd sacrificed for success that never seemed enough. Around 5, his phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. Dinner at the Carmichael Club tonight. Don't be late. Wear the blue Armani suit I bought you. The Thompsons will be there. Logan glanced at the mountain of work on his desk, knowing he'd have to come in early tomorrow to compensate for leaving now. But the alternative, Savannah's public displeasure at his absence, would be worse. The Carmichael Club loomed before him, its Georgian-style architecture a monument to old money and social climbing. Logan handed his keys to the valet, straightening his tie as he walked through the heavy oak doors. The place reeked of privilege, crystal chandeliers, oil paintings of founding members, and the quiet rustle of $100 bills changing hands at the bar. 5 years of membership, and he still felt like an outsider. The doorman's practiced smile didn't quite reach his eyes as he nodded Logan through. Unlike Savannah, who moved through these halls as if she'd been born to them, Logan had never quite mastered the art of belonging here. The dining room buzzed with the particular energy of the wealthy at play, that carefully cultivated mixture of refinement and ruthless social competition. Logan spotted several familiar faces. James Wilson, who'd just made partner at his law firm. The Hendersons, fresh from their 3rd vacation home purchase. And of course, Mark and Jessica Thompson, Savannah's favorite measuring stick for their supposed inadequacies, that he found Savannah at their usual table, holding court with several couples. Her laugh, practiced and artificial, carried across the restaurant. She wore a new dress Valentino, probably, though Logan had long since given up trying to keep track of designer names. The price tag would show up on their credit card statement soon enough. There you are. Savannah's voice held that edge of criticism he knew so well. Her smile remained fixed in place, but her eyes flashed warning. We were just discussing Mark's new partnership. Isn't it wonderful? Jessica Thompson, perched beside her husband Mark, offered Logan a sympathetic glance. Unlike Savannah, Jessica had worked her way up from modest beginnings. She still remembered what it was like to count pennies and dream of better days. How's your work going, Logan? Jessica asked kindly. Savannah mentioned you've been busy. Before he could answer, Savannah jumped in. Oh, he's always busy. Though somehow not quite as successful as your Mark, are you, dear? Still chasing that promotion, while others pass you by. The table fell into awkward silence. Logan took a long sip of water, swallowing his dignity along with it. Actually, he said quietly, we're finalizing a major merger next week. The largest in the company's history. How nice, Savannah dismissed, turning back to Jessica. Did you see the new Hermes collection? Simply divine. The evening crawled by, each minute an exercise in restraint. Logan watched as Savannah ordered the most expensive items on the menu, insisted on premium champagne, all while throwing subtle jabs his way. Every criticism was wrapped in a smile, every insult delivered with a laugh, making him look oversensitive if he objected that IT was past midnight when they finally got home. Logan loosened his tie, exhausted not just physically, but emotionally. Tomorrow would be another long day at the office, trying to catch up on the work he'd missed. The Wilsons are renovating their vacation home in Aspen, Savannah announced as she removed her jewelry. We should really think about doing the same. It's embarrassing having such an outdated chalet. Logan pinched the bridge of his nose. Savannah, we can't afford it. Can't afford, she scoffed. Maybe if you showed more ambition? I mean, look at Mark. Stop. Logan interrupted, surprising them both. Just stop comparing me to Mark. Or anyone else. Savannah's eyes narrowed. Well, someone's sensitive tonight. I'm just trying to motivate you to do better. God knows you need it. The next morning, a senior partner called Logan into his office. Mark Thompson, known for his direct approach and sharp business instincts, gestured for Logan to sit. The board's been reviewing your work on the Morrison merger, Mark began, settling into his chair. Impressive stuff? Very impressive. Thank you, sir. They're talking about fast-tracking you for senior management. The kind of position that could transform your career. Mark leaned forward. But I've noticed something concerning. You're here later every night, taking on more than your share of the workload. It's affecting your focus. Logan started to protest, but Mark held up a hand. I've been where you are, Logan, trying to prove something, pushing yourself to the breaking point. But let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Success means nothing if you lose yourself in the process. The words hit uncomfortably close to home. Logan thought about his brother Colton, who made half his salary but seemed twice as happy. About Rachel's sister, who found freedom in walking away. About his own reflection in the mirror each morning, growing more unrecognizable with each passing day. Take the weekend, Mark advised, standing. Clear your head. The merger will wait until Monday. But Logan knew he couldn't leave yet. The quarterly reports needed reviewing. The presentation needed polishing. And most importantly, he couldn't face another evening of Savannah's disappointment over his lack of dedication. The day passed in a blur of meetings and spreadsheets, Logan throwing himself into work as he always did. When he finally pulled into their driveway that evening, later than usual after a critical client meeting, he noticed Savannah's car was already there. Strange, since she usually stayed out late with her friends on Thursdays. The house felt different as he entered, tense, like the air before a storm, that he found her in the living room, pacing. She wore one of her expensive dresses, the kind she saved for special occasions, but her makeup was smudged as if she'd been crying. Logan's stomach tightened. In 7 years of marriage, he'd never seen Savannah cry genuine tears, only the carefully orchestrated ones she used when she wanted something. We need to talk, she said, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. Logan set down his briefcase, studying his wife's unusual demeanor. What's wrong? Savannah stopped pacing, wringing her hands, another gesture he'd never seen from her. I'm pregnant. The words hit him like a physical blow. But before relief or joy could take root, she continued, and it's not yours. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Logan sank into the nearest chair, his legs suddenly unable to support him. The expensive leather, another of Savannah's must-have purchases, felt cold against his back. What? It was just one time, Savannah rushed to explain, her words tumbling out. I was sure you were cheating on me. You've been working such long hours, coming home late, always distracted. Logan's mind reeled, trying to process her words through the roaring in his ears. You thought I was cheating, so you cheated? Don't act so innocent. Savannah's voice rose, her familiar defensiveness returning. You've been pulling away for months. What was I supposed to think? And anyway, this is partly your fault. If you'd been more attentive, if you'd given me what I needed. Stop. Logan's voice cut through her excuses like a blade. He stood slowly, something shifting irreversibly inside him. Just stop. Logan, baby, we can work through this. Savannah's tone changed, becoming honeyed, manipulative, the voice she used when she wanted to get her way. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, take a vacation. Who was it? She blinked, thrown by the direct question. What? The father. Who is he? That doesn't matter. Savannah waved her hand dismissively. What matters is us, our marriage. I know you're hurt, but tell me. Something in his tone made her step back. Just someone I met at the club. It didn't mean anything. He's not important. Logan looked around the room at the expensive furniture Savannah had insisted they needed. The art pieces she'd claimed would make them look cultured, the countless things she'd demanded over the years while giving nothing in return. Every object seemed to mock him now, representing years of manipulation and emotional abuse he'd endured for the sake of commitment. I'm done, he said quietly that Savannah's eyes widened. What? I'm done, he repeated, stronger this time. With the excuses, the manipulation, the constant demands. All of it. Don't be ridiculous, she scoffed, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice. You can't just watch me. Logan walked past her, heading for their bedroom. He pulled out a suitcase and began methodically packing his essentials. Each item he placed in the bag felt like another step toward freedom. Savannah followed, her confidence faltering as she watched him pack. Logan, stop this. You're overreacting. We could talk about this like adults. He continued packing, not bothering to respond. Years of pent-up anger and resentment crystallized into cold determination. The expensive watches she'd insisted he needed to look successful stayed in their case. The designer suits remained hanging. He took only what was truly his. Where are you going to go? She demanded, her voice rising with panic. What about our life together? Our future? Logan zipped the suitcase closed and turned to face her. You killed our future the moment you decided to sleep with someone else. But honestly, you've been killing it slowly for years with every insult, every demand, every time you made me feel worthless. Good luck with the baby. He cut her off, lifting his suitcase. I hope the father is ready to provide the lifestyle you're accustomed to, because I'm done being your personal bank account. You can't just leave. Savannah grabbed his arm as he headed for the door, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his sleeve. What about the house? The bills? The country club membership? You have responsibilities. Logan gently but firmly removed her hand. Not anymore. Not to you. You'll be back, she called after him, her voice wavering between threat and plea. You always come back. You need me. Who else would put up with your lack of ambition? Your mediocrity? Logan paused at the front door, looking back at the woman he'd once loved enough to pledge his life to. She stood in their expensive foyer, surrounded by all the material things she prioritized over their relationship, mascara smeared beneath her eyes. For the first time, he saw her clearly, not as the beautiful, sophisticated woman he'd married, but as a hollow shell, empty except for greed and narcissism. No, Savannah, I don't need you. I never did. What I needed was a partner, not a parasite. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, but to Logan, it sounded like freedom. The night air felt crisp and clean in his lungs as he walked to his car. His hands shook slightly as he loaded his suitcase into the trunk, but his mind was clearer than it had been in years. Through the living room window, he could see Savannah pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Probably calling one of her friends, already spinning the story to cast herself as the victim. He could imagine her words. He abandoned me in my time of need. He couldn't handle that I might have made one mistake. He's obviously having a breakdown. Let her talk. Let her spin whatever narrative helped her sleep at night. He was done living in her carefully constructed world of appearances and pretense that he drove straight to his brother Colton's house, muscle memory guiding him through familiar streets as his mind processed the evening's events. By the time he pulled into Colton's driveway, the sun had set, taking with it the last vestiges of his old life. Colton opened the door before Logan could knock. One look at his brother's face, telling him everything he needed to know. They'd always had that connection, even as kids, an ability to read each other that went beyond words. Come in, bro, beers in the fridge. The contrast between Colton's modest home and the mansion he'd shared with Savannah was stark. Where Savannah had insisted on pristine, showroom-perfect spaces, Colton's place felt lived in, comfortable, real. The furniture was chosen for comfort rather than status, the decor personal rather than trendy. Remember when Dad used to say you can tell a lot about a person by their home? Logan mused. Accepting the beer Colton offered, Colton nodded, settling into his worn but comfortable armchair. Yeah, wonder what he'd say about that museum you've been living in. Had been living in, Logan corrected, taking a long pull from his beer. I'm done. Yeah. Colton's expression was carefully neutral, but hope flickered in his eyes. He'd watched his brother disappear piece by piece over the years, consumed by Savannah's demands and manipulation. What happened? She's pregnant, Logan said flatly. Not mine. Colton's expression darkened. Jesus, Logan. I'm sorry, man. Don't be, Logan replied, surprising himself with how much he meant it. It's actually clarifying. Like everything finally makes sense. Yeah. Colton gave his brother space to process. Years of friendship underlying their brotherhood, making him the perfect confidant. Yeah. All these years, I've been trying to make it work, telling myself that if I just tried harder, earned more, gave her everything she wanted. Logan shook his head. But it was never going to be enough. She was always going to want more, demand more, take more. Until there was nothing left of me. You know you can stay here as long as you need, Colton offered. The guest room's yours. It's not the Ritz, but it's perfect. Logan cut him off. And thanks, bro. But this isn't temporary. I'm done. Really done. Good, Colton said firmly. Because if you'd gone back this time, I might have had to knock some sense into you myself. A ghost of a smile crossed Logan's face. Won't be necessary. Some things you can't come back from. Some things you shouldn't. His phone buzzed again, the screen showing multiple missed calls and messages from Savannah. And this time Logan turned it off completely. Tomorrow, he would need to start making arrangements. Finding a lawyer, securing his assets, planning for the inevitable battle ahead. But tonight, sitting in his brother's living room with a cold beer and the knowledge that he'd finally broken free, Logan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Peace. You know she's going to make this difficult, Colton said after a while. Savannah's never been one to accept defeat gracefully. Let her try, Logan replied, a new steel in his voice. I've spent 7 years bending to her will, walking on eggshells, trying to keep her happy. I'm done living like that. And the baby? Colton asked carefully. Logan's jaw tightened. Not my problem. She made her choice. Thunder rumbled outside, matching Logan's mood. He remembered their wedding day, how beautiful Savannah had looked walking down the aisle. He'd been so in love, so full of hope for their future. When had it all started to go wrong? Or had the signs been there from the beginning, masked by her charm and his own willingness to see only what he wanted to see? Remember that camping trip we took last summer? Logan asked suddenly. Colton nodded. The one Savannah refused to come on? She said it was beneath her dignity, Logan recalled bitterly. Called it primitive and pointless. But you know what? That weekend was the first time in years I felt like myself. No pretense, no criticism, no constant pressure to be something I'm not. You've always changed around her, Colton observed. Like you were wearing a mask. Even the way you talk is different when she's around. Logan absorbed this truth, recognizing its accuracy. She had this way of making me feel less. Everything I did, everything I was, it was never good enough. I kept thinking if I just worked harder, earned more, became what she wanted. That's what narcissists do, Colton said bluntly. They tear you down piece by piece until you don't recognize yourself anymore. Dad tried to warn you, you know. Yeah, Logan sighed. I should have listened, but I was too caught up in her world, her demands, her version of what our life should be. His phone lay silent on the coffee table, screen dark. Logan knew that when he turned it back on, there would be dozens of messages from Savannah alternating between threats and pleas, manipulation and guilt-tripping. But for the first time, he felt immune to her tactics. I need to call the office tomorrow, he said. Take a few days off to get my head straight. And I need to find a good lawyer. Already got you covered on that one. Colton reached for his phone. Remember Marcus from college? He specializes in divorce law now. Made a name for himself handling high-conflict cases. Logan felt a surge of gratitude for his brother's foresight. You've been waiting for this day, haven't you? Hoping for it, Colton corrected. There's a difference. I knew you had to come to it on your own terms. But yeah, I've had Marcus's number saved for a while now. Outside, the storm had picked up intensity, rain lashing against the windows. Logan found the sound soothing, cleansing. Each crash of thunder felt like another chain breaking, another step toward freedom. What happens now? He wondered aloud. Now. Colton stood, grabbing them each another beer. Now you start living again? The real you. Not the version of yourself she tried to force you to be. Logan accepted the fresh beer, letting his brother's words sink in. The real him. He'd almost forgotten who that was, buried under years of Savannah's criticism and demands. But he was about to find out. To new beginnings. Colton raised his bottle. Logan clinked his bottle against his brother's. To freedom. Outside, the storm began to ease, the violent downpour softening to a gentle rain. Like the storm, Logan felt his own turbulent emotions beginning to settle, clarity emerging from chaos. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Divorce proceedings, asset divisions, the inevitable drama Savannah would create. But for the first time in as long as he could remember, Logan wasn't afraid to face them. He was free, and he was never going back. The morning sun streamed through the guest room windows of Colton's house, finding Logan already awake and dressed in workout clothes. 3 weeks had passed since he'd walked out on Savannah, and each day brought more clarity, more certainty that he'd made the right decision. "You're up early," Colton remarked, finding his brother in the kitchen after his morning run. "Hitting the gym again?" Logan poured himself a protein shake. "Meeting with Marcus at 9. Need to clear my head first. More divorce proceedings?" Savannah's latest demands. Logan's jaw tightened. She wants the house, both cars, and full spousal support. Claims she can't possibly maintain her standard of living otherwise. Colton snorted. "Yeah, because heaven forbid she get a real job." "That's exactly what Marcus said." Logan grabbed his gym bag. "Speaking of jobs, I should head to the office after the meeting. Been too long since I've been in. They gave you 2 weeks leave, bro. Use it." "Can't." Logan's voice was firm. "The Morrison merger's too important. Besides, work keeps my mind off. Everything else." At the gym, Logan channeled his frustration into his workout. Each rep, each mile on the treadmill felt like another step toward reclaiming himself. The physical transformation was already visible. He'd lost the soft edges that came from too many business dinners and social obligations. His phone buzzed. Rachel, his assistant. "Logan? Sorry to bother you, but Savannah's here. She's demanding to see you." Logan's grip tightened on the phone. "I'm not in the office." "I told her that. She says she'll wait." "Logan, she's making a scene. Call security if you have to. I'm not dealing with her games anymore. There's something else." Rachel hesitated. "She's been telling people things. About you. About your marriage. Let her talk." Logan's voice was cold. "The truth will come out soon enough." After showering and changing into his suit, Logan headed to Marcus's office. The lawyer's space reflected his personality. Efficient, no-nonsense, with diplomas and case victories displayed prominently on the walls. "Good morning, Logan." Marcus gestured to a chair. "I've reviewed Savannah's latest demands. She's getting desperate. Tell me." "She's claiming emotional abuse. Says you drove her to infidelity through neglect." Marcus pulled out a document. "She wants 60% of your assets, plus 5 years of spousal support at $15,000 a month." Logan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course she does." "Here's the thing." Marcus leaned forward. "She made a mistake. A big one. Started running her mouth to anyone who'd listen about how controlling you were, how you isolated her from her friends." "What friends?" Logan's voice was sharp. "The ones she constantly competed with? The ones she used to make me feel inadequate?" "Exactly." Marcus smiled. "And that's where she slipped up. I've got statements from 3 different couples contradicting her claims. They describe her behavior, not yours, as controlling and manipulative. The Thompsons? Jessica was particularly helpful. Seems she's been waiting for a chance to expose Savannah's true nature." Logan absorbed this information. "What else?" "Your brother sent over the videos. Family gatherings, social events. They show a clear pattern of Savannah's behavior. The constant criticism, the public humiliation. Plus, I've got your financial records. They tell quite a story about financial abuse, but not the way she claims. She's not getting a dime more than she's legally entitled to," Logan stated firmly. "No," Marcus agreed. "She's not. But Logan, be prepared. When narcissists feel cornered, they get dangerous. She's already trying to poison your social circle against you. Let her try. Anyone who believes her lies isn't worth keeping in my life, anyway. Leaving Marcus's office, Logan headed to work. The familiar surroundings of his corner office felt different now. No longer a refuge from his marriage, but a symbol of his independence. Sarah Martinez caught him in the hallway. Logan, thank God you're back. The Morrison team's getting antsy. Schedule a meeting for tomorrow morning, Logan replied. Full presentation of where we stand. Already done. 9 a.m. Sarah hesitated. Listen, about Savannah's visit this morning. Not your problem anymore. Not anyone's problem, but hers. The day passed in a blur of meetings and catch-up work. Logan immersed himself in the merger details, finding satisfaction in pure business problems that could be solved with logic and strategy. Around 6, Rachel appeared in his doorway. Your wife, ex-wife, has been calling every hour. Soon-to-be ex, Logan corrected. And you can block her number. She left a message. Says if you don't call her back, she'll go to the board about your unstable behavior. Logan's laugh was cold. Let her. My work speaks for itself. That evening, returning to Colton's house, Logan found unexpected visitors, their parents, Richard and Diana Matthews. Mom? Dad? What are you doing here? Diana rushed to hug her son. Colton told us everything. Why didn't you call us sooner? Didn't want to worry you. Logan accepted his father's firm handshake. I'm handling it. Like hell you are. Richard's voice was gruff with concern. You should have told us what was really going on with Savannah years ago. Would it have made a difference? Logan asked. I had to see it for myself. Sit down, son. Richard gestured to the couch. We need to talk. The family gathered in Colton's living room. The scene so different from the formal gathering Savannah had insisted upon. Diana brought out coffee. Not the expensive imported brand Savannah demanded, but the simple home brew that reminded Logan of Sunday mornings growing up. I ran into Savannah at the club yesterday, Diana began. The story she's telling. Mom, let me finish. She's trying to turn the whole community against you. Claims you abandoned her when she needed you most. That you're having some sort of breakdown. Classic narcissist playbook, Colton interjected. When they can't control you, they try to control the narrative about you. She won't succeed, Logan stated firmly. The truth is on my side. Son, Richard leaned forward. We should have said something sooner. We saw how she treated you, how she constantly belittled your achievements. But you thought I needed to figure it out myself, Logan finished. You were right. Well, we're here now. Diana squeezed her son's hand. Whatever you need. I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing, Logan replied. This isn't just about the divorce. It's about taking back my life. The next morning brought another confrontation. Logan arrived at his office to find Savannah waiting in the lobby, dressed to kill in designer clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. You're avoiding me, she accused, stepping into his path. No, Logan replied calmly. I'm done with you. There's a difference. We need to talk about this like adults, Logan. You're being ridiculous. Everything goes through the lawyers now, Savannah. You know that. Her perfectly made-up face twisted with anger. Is this how you want to play it? Because I can make things very difficult for you. More difficult than finding out my wife is pregnant with another man's child. Logan's voice was ice. More difficult than years of emotional abuse and manipulation? Please enlighten me. Abuse? Savannah laughed incredulously. I built you up, made you who you are. Without me, you'd still be that insecure little man I met 7 years ago. Several employees had stopped to watch the confrontation. Logan noticed Rachel hovering nearby, phone in hand, ready to call security. No, Savannah. You try to tear me down to build yourself up. But guess what? I'm done letting you define my worth. The board won't look kindly on a man who abandons his pregnant wife, she threatened. Ex-wife, Logan corrected. And the baby isn't mine, remember? Your words, not mine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a merger to finalize. Logan, she grabbed his arm as he passed. You can't just walk away from me. He removed her hand firmly. I already have. Security will show you out. As if on cue, 2 security guards appeared. Logan nodded to them and walked to the elevator. Ignoring Savannah's increasingly shrill protest at Diana's office, Rachel appeared with coffee. That was quite a show. One she won't be repeating, Logan replied. Make sure security has her photo. She's not allowed in the building. The weeks that followed brought more attempts at manipulation. Savannah alternated between threats and pleading, showing up at places she knew Logan frequented, sending mutual friends to talk sense into him. But Logan remained unmoved. He threw himself into his work, the Morrison merger progressing steadily under his leadership. He started therapy, began rebuilding old friendships Savannah had discouraged, and slowly reclaimed pieces of himself he'd thought were lost forever. The divorce proceedings moved forward, each revelation strengthening Logan's case. Financial records showed the extent of Savannah's reckless spending. Witness statements painted a clear picture of her manipulative behavior. Even her lover, when deposed, described her as unstable and demanding. She's losing control, Marcus observed during one of their meetings. Her latest filing is full of contradictions. Claims you were both controlling and neglectful, abusive and absent. Sounds like Savannah, Logan replied. Whatever serves her purpose in the moment. The judge isn't buying it, especially not with the evidence we've gathered. Those credit card statements alone. What about her latest demands? Marcus shuffled some papers. She wants to negotiate, offering to drop the spousal support claim if you'll give her the house and investment accounts. Not happening. Didn't think so. Marcus smiled. Trial date set for next month. Want my honest opinion? She's going to crash and burn. Logan left the meeting feeling lighter. In his car, he found a voicemail from Colton. Bro, you need to hear this. Ran into Jessica Thompson at the store. Apparently, Savannah's lover boy wants nothing to do with her or the baby. Says she lied to him too. Claims she was separated. It's all falling apart for her. Logan deleted the message without emotion. Savannah's problems were no longer his concern. His only focus now was the upcoming trial and ensuring she couldn't take anything more from him. The Morrison merger was entering its final stages, consuming most of Logan's professional attention. In a late-night meeting with the board, he presented the final projections. Impressive work, Logan, the CEO commented. This merger could redefine our entire market position. Thank you, sir. We're ready to move forward whenever his phone buzzed. Savannah again. He declined the call without breaking stride in his presentation. Later that night, Colton found him on the back porch, nursing a beer. Heard about the board meeting, Colton said, joining him. Sounds like the merger's a done deal. Almost. Logan took a long drink. Final signatures next week. And Savannah. Trial starts Monday. Colton studied his brother's profile. You ready for that? More than ready. Logan's voice was firm. Time to end this? The courthouse loomed ahead, its stone facade imposing in the morning light. Logan adjusted his tie, the same one he'd worn when he first walked out on Savannah. It felt fitting somehow. Remember, Marcus said as they climbed the steps, she's going to try to provoke you. Don't take the bait. I won't give her the satisfaction. Inside, they found Savannah already seated with her lawyer, a sharp-featured woman named Victoria Reed. Savannah wore a conservative dress, her makeup subtle, playing the role of wronged wife to perfection. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Gloria Henderson, called the court to order. Your Honor, Victoria began, my client has been devastated by her husband's abandonment during her pregnancy. Objection, Marcus interrupted. Counsel is well aware that my client is not the father of Mrs. Matthews' child, as proven by her own admission. Sustained. Judge Henderson's voice was crisp. Ms. Reed, stick to the facts. The morning proceeded with financial testimony. Logan watched as Marcus systematically dismantled Savannah's claims of financial dependency. Mrs. Matthews, Marcus approached during cross-examination. Could you explain these credit card charges? Specifically, the $50,000 spent at various boutiques last month. Savannah shifted in her seat. I have certain standards to maintain. Logan always understood that. Did he? Or did you berate him constantly for not earning enough to support your spending habits? Objection. Victoria called. Argumentative. Sustained. Rephrase, Mr. Lawrence. Marcus nodded. Mrs. Matthews. How much did you personally contribute to the household income during your marriage? I maintained our social connections. That's a full-time job in itself. A simple number will suffice. Savannah's facade cracked slightly. Nothing monetary, but so $0, Marcus stated. And yet you spend an average of $30,000 per month on personal expenses. Is that correct? Logan never complained, because you berated him if he did. Isn't that right? Victoria jumped up. Objection! But the damage was done. Logan could see the judge's expression shifting as she observed Savannah's behavior during the lunch recess. Jessica Thompson approached Logan in the hallway. I just testified, she said quietly. Told them everything how she manipulated you. Constantly compared you to Mark. Spread rumors when she didn't get her way. Thank you, Logan replied sincerely. That couldn't have been easy. Actually, it was. Jessica's smile was grim. Savannah's been playing these games for years. It's about time someone stood up to her. The afternoon brought more revelations. Financial records showed Savannah had been secretly transferring money to a private account. Text messages between her and her lover revealed she'd been planning to leave Logan anyway after securing a substantial settlement. Your Honor, Victoria attempted damage control. My client admits to some indiscretions, but Mr. Matthews' cruel abandonment. Cruel abandonment? Logan's voice cut through the courtroom before Marcus could object. I gave her everything. 7 years of my life, my self-respect, my dignity, all while she took and took and took. Judge Henderson raised an eyebrow, but allowed him to continue. I worked 60-hour weeks to fund her lifestyle, endured constant criticism and manipulation. And when she got pregnant by another man, she had the audacity to blame me. Logan's voice remained steady, controlled. I didn't abandon her, Your Honor. I escaped. The judge studied him thoughtfully. Mr. Matthews, while I appreciate your candor, in the future, please address the court through your counsel. Yes, Your Honor. I apologize. Savannah seized the opportunity for drama, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. I made one mistake, Logan. One. After years of your emotional distance, your workaholic tendencies, Mrs. Matthews, the judge cut in sharply. You will address the court, not your husband. The trial continued for 3 more days. Witness after witness described Savannah's manipulative behavior. Bank statements showed her reckless spending. Even her own testimony worked against her. Each attempt to play victim revealed more of her narcissistic nature than on the final day. Judge Henderson delivered her ruling. This court has heard extensive testimony regarding the breakdown of this marriage. While Mrs. Matthews attempts to paint herself as a victim, the evidence suggests otherwise. She peered over her glasses at Savannah. Your behavior, Mrs. Matthews, has been manipulative and financially irresponsible. Your claims of emotional abuse are not only unsupported, but appear to be projections of your own actions. Logan sat perfectly still as the judge continued. The court hereby denies all claims for spousal support. The marital assets will be divided as follows. Mr. Matthews retains the family home, his entire investment portfolio, and all business interests. Mrs. Matthews will receive 20% of the liquid assets, minus her unauthorized transfers and her personal belongings. Savannah's outraged gasp echoed through the courtroom. This is unconscionable. I deserve, Mrs. Matthews. Judge Henderson's voice could have frozen fire. You deserve exactly what you're getting. This court's ruling is final. Outside the courthouse, Logan stood in the sunlight, feeling truly free for the first time in years. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. Congratulations. That went even better than expected. It's really over? She can appeal, but she won't win. Her credibility's shot. Marcus smiled. Go celebrate. You've earned it. Logan's phone buzzed a text from Rachel. Morrison merger documents just arrived. They're ready to sign whenever you are. Perfect timing. One chapter of his life was ending, but another was just beginning. His phone buzzed again, Savannah. Without hesitation, he blocked her number. Ready to go? Colton asked, appearing beside him. More than ready. As they walked to the car, Logan heard Savannah calling his name. He didn't turn around. Her voice, once so commanding, now held no power over him. She's really not handling this well. Colton observed as they drove away. Not my problem anymore. Logan loosened his tie. The Morrison merger closes tomorrow. I'm focusing on that. And after? Logan smiled. After? I start living life on my terms. No more manipulation. No more emotional blackmail. No more endless demands. Good? Colton grinned. Because I've got 2 tickets to that Patriots game next weekend. Like old times? Like old times, Logan agreed. But first, I need to stop by the office. Time to sign those merger documents. The following weeks brought news of Savannah's downfall. Her lover had publicly denied any responsibility for the baby. Her credit cards were maxed out, and her social circle had crumbled. Logan heard it all secondhand. He was too busy rebuilding his life to pay attention to her drama. The Morrison merger closed successfully, earning Logan a promotion to senior vice president and a substantial bonus. He bought a new house smaller than the mansion he'd shared with Savannah, but actually feeling like a home. No designer furniture, no showcases for status symbols. Just comfortable spaces where he could finally be himself. You seem different, Rachel commented one morning, bringing in his coffee. Happier. I am, Logan realized. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. His phone buzzed a text from Marcus. Savannah's trying to contest the settlement. Judge threw it out. It's really over. Logan deleted the message without response. Savannah's desperate attempts to maintain control had lost all power over him. He had work to do, a life to live, and a future to build, one that was finally, completely his own. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Matthews? The acquisition team is ready in conference room A. Thanks, Rachel. Logan gathered his materials. Sarah, walk with me? They moved through the executive floor, where framed newspaper articles chronicled the Morrison Matthews Group's meteoric rise. Logan's promotion to executive VP had made headlines in the business section, the same section where, a few weeks later, a smaller article detailed James Wilson's firm's collapse. I compiled the data on Sterling Technologies, Sarah said as they walked. Their R&D department alone is worth twice the asking price. And their CEO? Resigned last week. Board's desperate to sell before the scandal hits the mainstream press. She lowered her voice. Word is he was embezzling. Funny thing, someone sent an anonymous tip to the SEC. Logan's expression remained neutral, but there was a glint in his eye. James Wilson had been one of Savannah's favorite examples of real success. Now his firm was just another asset in Logan's growing portfolio. The acquisition team waited in the conference room. 12 of the sharpest minds in corporate finance, all handpicked by Logan. He'd built this team from scratch, choosing people based on merit rather than social connections. Morning, everyone. Logan took his place at the head of the table. Let's talk about Sterling Technologies. 2 hours later, the team had outlined an aggressive acquisition strategy. Logan was reviewing the final points when his phone buzzed a text from Colton. Emergency family dinner tonight. Mom and Dad insist. It's about Savannah. Logan texted back. Can't. Acquisition meeting. Trust me. You want to hear this. At 7, Logan pulled up to his parents' house. Not the modest home of his childhood, but the upscale residence they'd purchased with his help after his promotion. Diana Matthews opened the door before he could knock. Perfect timing, she said, ushering him inside. Your father just got off the phone with Harold Parker. Logan raised an eyebrow. Savannah's father? Sit down, son. Richard Matthews gestured to the living room, where Colton already waited. This is interesting. Harold called to ask for a favor. Diana continued, serving coffee. Apparently, Savannah's situation has become dire. How dire? Logan's voice was neutral. Richard leaned forward. She's being evicted from her apartment. The coffee shop fired her for missing too many shifts. She's 4 months behind on her car payments, and the baby's due any day. And this is my problem, because... It's not, Diana said firmly. Harold wanted to know if you'd consider a settlement something to help Savannah get back on her feet. Your father told him exactly where to stick that request. Colton grinned. Dad's exact words were, your daughter made her bed when she betrayed my son. Now she can lie in it without Egyptian cotton sheets. There's more, Richard added. The man she had the affair with? Turns out he's a partner at Wilson's old firm. Lost everything in the scandal. Karma's got a wicked sense of timing. Colton observed. Logan sipped his coffee, remembering all the times Savannah had compared him unfavorably to the successful men in her social circle. Now those same men were watching their empires crumble. While the Morris and Matthews Group, made the Wall Street Journal again, Diana held up the business section. Third major acquisition this quarter. We're so proud of you, son. Thanks, Mom. Logan checked his phone, 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Probably Savannah using another burner phone. He blocked it without a second thought. Oh, Colton remembered something. Ran into Jessica Thompson at the gym. She said Savannah tried to get a job at their family's company. How'd that go? Jessica personally rejected the application. Said something about karma being a more efficient executive than any CEO. The next morning, Logan arrived early at the office to find Rachel waiting with urgent news. Sterling Technologies accepted our offer, she reported. But that's not why I'm here. Security called. Savannah's in the lobby again. Logan's expression hardened. Call them to remove her. Already did, but she's making quite a scene. Very pregnant, crying about having nowhere else to go. Some of the employees are filming it. Let them. Logan logged into his computer. Maybe going viral as a cautionary tale will be good for her. Through his office windows, he could see the growing crowd in the plaza below. A small figure in what used to be designer clothes, now visibly worn, gesturing dramatically. Even from 40 stories up, he could recognize Savannah's flair for drama. Sir? Michael appeared at the door. Security handled the situation, but she left this. He held up an envelope. Shred it. She said it's about the baby. I said shred it. Logan's voice left no room for argument. And have legal prepare a restraining order. I want it filed today. As Michael left, Sarah walked in with the morning reports. Quite a show downstairs. You okay? Better than okay. Logan pulled up the Sterling Technologies acquisition documents. Their board meets in an hour to finalize the sale. By noon, we'll own their entire R&D division. About that, Sarah's smile was knowing. Guess who just got fired from Sterling's legal department? Savannah's little friend, Susan Morgan. The one who used to brag about her corner office at all those charity events. Logan allowed himself a small smile. One by one, the people who had once looked down on him, who had fed Savannah's illusions of superiority, were falling. Not through any direct action on his part, though a few well-timed anonymous tips hadn't hurt, but through their own hubris and poor choices. The morning brought more acquisitions, more successes. Logan moved through his meetings with the focused intensity that had become his trademark, his reputation for ruthless efficiency growing with each deal. Around lunch, Rachel buzzed in. Your brother's here. Says it's important. Colton burst into the office, grinning like a kid at Christmas. You're not going to believe what just happened at the country club. Try me. Savannah showed up at the lunch rush, tried to talk her way in. Said she'd forgotten her membership card. Colton settled into a chair. Of course, her membership was revoked months ago, part of the divorce settlement. Remember? Get to the point. She made this huge scene, crying about how she'd been a member for years, how she knew everyone there. Started listing all the charity events she'd chaired. Colton's grin widened. Right in front of the potential investors I was meeting with. Logan raised an eyebrow. Your real estate deal? Yep. One of them recorded the whole thing. But here's the best part. You know that snobba maitre d' she used to terrorize? He's the one who called security. Rachel appeared at the door. Sorry to interrupt, but the Sterling Technologies board is ready to sign. We'll finish this later, Logan told his brother, gathering his documents. Oh, one more thing, Colton called after him. Mom ran into Savannah at Target, buying generic prenatal vitamins. Logan straightened his tie, heading for the conference room. Karma's got a sense of humor. The signing took an hour, each signature adding another asset to the Morris and Matthews portfolio. As the Sterling board filed out, looking shell-shocked, Sarah handed Logan a news alert on her tablet. James Wilson just filed for bankruptcy, she reported. Personal and professional. Logan remembered Wilson at all those dinner parties, bragging about his latest deals while Savannah looked at Logan with disappointment. Now Wilson was broke, his reputation ruined, his firm absorbed into Logan's growing empire. The day continued with more meetings, more successes. Around 6, Logan left the office, declining his usual driver in favor of walking. The evening air was crisp, the city alive with end-of-day energy, that he passed a small cafe, not the high-end restaurant Savannah had insisted on, but a cozy place with good coffee and zero pretense. Through the window, he spotted a familiar figure serving tables. Savannah, her pregnancy now very obvious, wobbled between tables in sensible shoes that would have horrified her former self. Her once-perfect hair was tied back simply, her designer wardrobe replaced with standard waitress attire. She looked up, catching his eye through the glass. For a moment, they stared at each other, Logan in his tailored suit, success radiating from every pore, and Savannah in her polyester uniform, desperation etched on her face. She moved toward the door, but Logan was already walking away. Behind him, he heard the door open, her voice calling his name, but he didn't turn. Her voice, once so commanding, now held no power over him. His phone buzzed a text from Marcus. Judge denied her appeal. Settlement stands. It's really over. Logan didn't reply. He had a company to run, a future to build, and no time to waste on the past. Through a store window, he caught his reflection. Successful, confident, strong. No longer the man who had accepted emotional abuse and manipulation as love. Later that evening, in his new home office, Logan reviewed the day's acquisitions. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. The baby came early. A girl. I named her Hope. Logan, please. I need help. He blocked the number without hesitation. On his desk, a framed photo showed him with his family at the company's last charity gala. Genuine smiles. Real happiness. No pretense or social climbing. Outside his window, the city lights twinkled. Somewhere out there, Savannah was facing the consequences of her choices. Watching from afar as he built the life she could have been part of. Had she chosen differently, karma had finally delivered its toll, and Logan was exactly where he deserved to be. Free, successful, and completely unmoved by the desperate pleas of the woman who had once tried to break him. Act 3 end. And the view from his new position as Executive VP of the Morrison Matthews Group reminded him daily of how far he'd come. The city sprawled below, a testament to possibilities and fresh starts. Another acquisition offer came in, Rachel announced, walking in with a stack of reports. She'd moved up with him, taking the position of executive assistant to the newly formed division. Sterling Technologies. They're struggling after their CEO's scandal. Put it with the others, Logan replied, turning from the window. His new office reflected his own taste. Modern but understated, functional rather than flashy. No more overpriced art pieces or pretentious decorations. Just clean lines and purposeful design. Sarah Martinez appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. Morning, team. Logan, got a minute? The numbers from Asia are in. Come in. Logan gestured to the conference table. Rachel, hold my calls. Sarah spread out her documents. Singapore exceeded projections by 30%. Hong Kong's looking even better. The Morrison merger opened doors we didn't even know existed. What about the European expansion? That's actually why I'm here. Sarah pulled up a presentation. Remember that London firm Savannah's friend Jessica invested in? The one she was always bragging about at those charity events. Logan nodded, remembering countless dinner parties where Savannah had used Jessica's investment success to highlight what she saw as his failures. They're selling. Sarah's smile was predatory. At a loss. Seems Jessica's ex-friend's constant name-dropping caused some reputation problems. Logan allowed himself a small smile. Karma works in mysterious ways. 6 months after the divorce, Logan stood at the window of his new executive office, watching the city bustle 40 stories below. The Morrison Matthews Group had exceeded all expectations, turning the merger into one of the most successful acquisitions in the company's history. Mr. Matthews? His new assistant, Michael, appeared at the door. Your brother's here. Colton strode in, wearing his trademark grin. Nice view, Mr. Executive VP. What brings you by? Logan turned from the window. Thought you might want to see this. Colton handed over his phone, displaying a local news website. Seems karma's finally catching up with someone we know. Logan scanned the article. Local socialite faces eviction. Financial ruin. Below the headline was a photo of Savannah leaving what appeared to be a public assistance office. I take it the trust fund baby routine isn't playing well anymore. Logan handed the phone back. Not since her parents cut her off. Colton settled into a chair. Apparently, they got tired of funding her lifestyle choices. The baby's due in 2 months, and she still can't prove who the father is. Not my problem. Logan's voice held no emotion. There's more, Colton continued. Remember that fancy boutique she always bragged about wanting to open? She tried to get a business loan using your old joint accounts as collateral, which don't exist anymore. Exactly. Bank turned her down flat. Her credit shot, and word is she's selling her designer stuff just to make rent. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Matthews? The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Thanks, Michael. Logan straightened his tie. Want to grab dinner later? Mom and Dad are in town. About that, Colton's expression turned serious. Dad ran into Savannah at the grocery store yesterday. Logan raised an eyebrow. Grocery store? That's new. Yeah, well, Whole Foods probably isn't in her budget anymore. She tried to get Dad to talk to you. Said she's changed, realized her mistakes. And Dad told her exactly where she could stick her apologies. Colton grinned. In his exact words, you made your bed when you betrayed my son. Now, lie in it. Logan allowed himself a small smile. Sounds like Dad. He also mentioned she wasn't looking too good. Designer clothes replaced with department store stuff. No more perfect manicure or salon hair. Again, not my problem. Logan gathered his presentation materials. Walk with me to the boardroom? In the elevator, Colton studied his brother's reflection. You really don't care, do you? About Savannah? No. I've moved on. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor. But I do care about being on time to this meeting. Dinner at 7? You buying, Mr. Big Shot? When don't I? The board meeting ran long, focusing on the next phase of the Morrison Matthews expansion. Logan's presentation on potential acquisitions drew enthusiastic approval, particularly his strategy for targeting undervalued companies in emerging markets. Afterward, Sarah Martinez caught up with him in the hallway. Brilliant presentation, she said, falling into step beside him. Though I heard something interesting that might affect our timeline. Oh. Remember James Wilson, Savannah's friend's husband? Logan nodded. Wilson and Associates had been on their potential acquisition list. His firm's in trouble. Seems their biggest client pulled out after some questionable practices came to light. Sarah's smile was knowing. Apparently, someone tipped off the client about Wilson's creative accounting. Someone, let's just say karma works in mysterious ways. Sarah handed him a folder. Their stock price is dropping. Might be time to move up our acquisition schedule. Logan took the folder, thinking of all the times Savannah had compared him unfavorably to James Wilson. Set up a meeting with their board. Let's see how they feel about a friendly takeover. That evening, Logan met his family at Morton Steakhouse. Diana Matthews hugged her son tightly. You look wonderful, dear. Success suits you. Thanks, Mom. Logan helped her into her seat. How long are you and Dad in town? Just the weekend, Richard replied, studying the wine list. Though we might need to visit more often, given how things are going with the company. Their server had just taken their orders when a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. Logan heard a familiar voice, its usual polished tone now shrill with desperation. What do you mean my card was declined? Do you know who I am? Savannah stood at the host station, her designer outfit from last season showing signs of wear. Her pregnancy was obvious now, her once slim figure swollen with someone else's child. Ma'am, the host's voice was patient but firm. I'm afraid we can't accept this card. Perhaps you have another form of payment? This is ridiculous. I eat here all the time. The scene drew stares from other diners. Logan watched dispassionately as Savannah rummaged through her once expensive purse, now showing scuffs and wear. Everything okay here? The restaurant manager approached. No, everything is not okay. I'm a regular customer. And Savannah's voice cut off as she spotted Logan and his family. Her face flushed red. Diana Matthews turned deliberately away. Richard focused intently on his menu. Only Colton watched openly, a slight smile playing at his lips. Perhaps, the manager suggested quietly, you'd be more comfortable dining elsewhere this evening. Savannah's lips trembled. Logan, don't. His voice carried across the restaurant, cold and final. Just don't. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she turned and fled, leaving her declined credit card on the host station. Well, Colton broke the silence. That was awkward. I heard she tried to get a job at the country club, Diana commented, sipping her water. They turned her down. Something about her reputation preceding her. The mighty have fallen, Richard observed. Though in her case, it was less of a fall and more of a crash and burn. Logan signaled the server. I think we'll need that bottle of wine now. Over dinner, the conversation turned to happier topics. The company's success, Colton's new girlfriend, plans for the holidays. But Logan's mind kept returning to the sight of Savannah's desperation. Not with pity, but with a sense of justice served the next morning, Rachel stopped by his office. You know that apartment complex you invested in last month? The downtown renovation project? What about it? Guess who just applied for one of the budget units? Rachel's expression was meaningful. Application was rejected, of course. Credit check failed spectacularly. Logan turned back to his computer. Forward the rejection notice to her last known email. Standard form. Already done? Rachel paused at the door. Oh, and Jessica Thompson called. Said she saw Savannah at a job fair, trying to explain her 7-year employment gap to recruiters. How'd that go? About as well as you'd expect. Turns out professional socialite isn't an in-demand skill set. The weeks passed, bringing more news of Savannah's downfall. She'd moved from her luxury apartment to a small studio in a less desirable area. Her social circle had evaporated, former friends avoiding her calls. Even her parents' patience had worn thin. Tired of her constant demands for money, Logan heard it all secondhand, too busy with his own success to pay attention. The Morris & Matthews Group was expanding rapidly, acquiring companies across 3 continents. His new home, while modest compared to the mansion he'd shared with Savannah, reflected his true tastes. Comfortable, practical, lived in. One evening, as he left the office, he spotted a familiar figure sitting in the building's lobby. Savannah had lost the glossy perfection she'd once maintained. Her designer wardrobe replaced with department store maternity wear, her once perfect manicure chipped and worn. Security. Logan spoke into his phone. There's an unauthorized person in the lobby. Logan. Please. Savannah struggled to stand, her pregnancy making her movements awkward. I just need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. I have nowhere else to go, she pleaded. My parents won't help anymore. My friends won't return my calls. The baby's due in weeks, and I can't even afford. Not my problem. Logan's voice was ice. You made your choices, Savannah. Now you get to live with them. I made a mistake. One mistake. Logan turned to face her fully. One mistake? You spent years tearing me down, manipulating me, comparing me to every other man you knew. You treated me like a bank account with legs. The affair? That was just the final straw. I've changed, she whispered. I understand now what I lost. No, Logan corrected her. You understand what you lost access to. My money, my position, the lifestyle you felt entitled to. But you haven't changed. You're still the same selfish, manipulative person you always were. You're just not as good at hiding it anymore. Security arrived. 2 guards approaching professionally. Sir, please escort Ms. Parker out. She's not allowed in the building. Logan. He walked to the elevator without looking back, her protests fading as the doors closed. In his car, he found a text from Colton. Heard baby daddy finally surfaced. Married guy from the club. Wife kicked him out, but he's broke too. Karma's got a sense of humor. Logan deleted the message without responding. His phone rang. Sarah Martinez. Wilson and Associates board agreed to meet, she reported. They're desperate for a buyout before the scandal gets worse. Schedule it for next week, Logan replied, starting his car. And Sarah? Make sure James Wilson is there. I want him to watch as we dismantle everything he built. The following month brought more changes. The Wilson and Associates acquisition went through smoothly, though James Wilson himself was quietly let go during the restructuring. Logan's division continued to expand, his reputation for ruthless efficiency growing with each successful merger. One crisp autumn morning, Logan stopped at his favorite coffee shop before work. Through the window, he spotted a familiar figure serving coffee behind the counter. Savannah, her pregnancy now in its final stages, wore a green apron and a name tag, Her once perfectly manicured hands now raw from washing dishes. She looked up as he entered, her eyes widening with recognition. But Logan walked to the counter without acknowledging her. Grande dark roast. He ordered from the other barista, paying with his platinum card. As he waited for his coffee, he heard whispers from nearby customers. Isn't that her ex-husband? The big shot executive? Yeah. Heard she cheated on him. Lost everything in the divorce. Karma's a bitch, huh? Logan collected his coffee and walked out, never glancing in Savannah's direction. Through the window, he saw her quickly wiping her eyes, smudging her drugstore mascara. Later that day, in his office, Logan reviewed the latest acquisition proposals. His phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. The baby came early. It's a girl. I named her Hope. Please, Logan, I need help. Logan blocked the number without responding. On his desk, a framed photo showed him with his family at the company's last charity gala. He was smiling, genuine and free, no longer the shadow of a man he'd been with Savannah. Mr. Matthews? Michael appeared at the door. Your next appointment is here. The CEO of Tech Dynamics. Send them in. Logan stood, straining his tie. Life moved forward. He had a company to run, a future to build, and no time to waste on the past. Through his office window, he could see his reflection in the glass. Successful, confident, strong. No longer the man who had accepted emotional abuse and manipulation as love. No longer the man who had compromised his own worth to please someone who could never be pleased. That he was free. And Savannah? She was exactly where she deserved to be, facing the consequences of her own choices. Watching from afar as he built the life she could have been part of, had she chosen differently. Karma, as they say, had finally delivered its toll.